Hello and welcome to Mad About Sports for yet another live. And today we are here to talk about the Asia Cup because Asia Cup is just a couple of days away from its first game because tomorrow Pakistan take on Nepal. So Asia Cup is right here and it's a big time to talk about it. We've got all the teams ready. We've got some big contenders for it, some underdogs. So here we are to preview all of it and to understand who could possibly take the Asian glory right before the World Cup and maybe set a right stage or tone going into that massive tournament in India. And Antariksh, how excited are you for this tournament? Because this tournament is different. Because if you look at previous tournaments as well, it was all T20 format, and after 4 to 5 years, we're having a one-day Asia Cup. So that is a big difference. Last time
Yeah,
Asia Cup was played in that particular manner, which was the 50 overs format. It was way back in 2018. Now it's good that Asia Cup is back, and with that, there's a lot of excitement as well.
there is, and I'm like pretty excited because Asia Cup smells nostalgia, doesn't it? Like the old school Asia Cup where we used to have these India Pakistans and India Sri Lankas. They just hit different. Like any bilateral series between any two nations is on one side, and this Asia Cup because it's like we don't have a European Cup or a South American Cup in cricket. It's just that Asian dominance and Asian countries
Yeah.
go to get together, and it's pretty fantastic to see that we'll have two. Obviously not new because Afghanistan has been around the block, but like for the first time in this 50 over format, very properly, we'll have Afghanistan as well as Nepal. So I'm pretty excited
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
witness it, and obviously the World Cup with something as big as the Asia Cup on stake. I think it couldn't get better to set the stakes higher. Yeah.
And if you look, this Asia Cup is a very hybrid Asia Cup model where you have some games played in Pakistan and some games played in Sri Lanka as well. Because tomorrow the game is going to get kick-started in Multan, and then Pakistan are going to travel to Sri Lanka all the way down to play India. So if you're a traveling team, it's slightly more harder for you because you're making travel between two different countries on every alternate
Yeah.
day. How is that going to affect, especially for some of the teams? Because for Pakistan, they were in Sri Lanka for so long. They just left the shores of Sri Lanka to go back, and now they will be playing Nepal tomorrow in Multan, in their home ground. That's an advantage to start off with. But at the same time, they have to come back to Sri Lanka in a couple of days and play India. So that is where the hard part kicks in, isn't it?
It is, and we all know the big financial reason or the big quote unquote political reason why the teams have to travel and not play in one country. So I think that was the I'd say the middle solution that they have to come to. But you're right in terms of all of this. Obviously, fatigue kicks in, and because it's not a like the footballing Premier League kind of ki ek hafta milega. It's bang on game after game after game, and you'll probably be traveling. By the time you're settling in, reached, you have to play another game. So yeah, it is. But I think the good thing, or you could say the neutral thing about this is that you get ample chances. Ample chances in the sense there are six teams, and then four of them are going to go through. So I think that is going to give a fair shot to sort of everyone. Of course, I think India. I've not checked the fixture list as such with the venues. So I think India would be the only team. That is what I know that they're not going to travel for sure. I
Yeah.
don't know if there is any other team that's going to get that advantage.
Yeah, that's definitely there because India are the only team who won't travel. I think along with that, with Sri Lanka is going to be playing. Sri Lanka is also traveling to Lahore to play Afghanistan as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
no other team is going to be at home, or at least in Sri Lanka. That India, all other teams will be traveling. So that, in one sense, is India's only team who's going to be stationed in Sri Lanka, which you can say is an added advantage because to an extent, if you're going to be stationed at a particular point, you will be getting that extra bit of opportunity to stay there,
Absolutely.
recover, and also, I think there's only one Super 4 game in Pakistan as well. So other than that, most of the games are going to be played in Colombo. But other than that, in the normal group stage, the games will be played in Palikele. That is a venue for it as of now, and
Yeah.
that's where it's going to be kicking start. But tomorrow, Pakistan play on Nepal to start off the Asia Cup. Now, for a lot of people, they already know that Nepal is the clear-cut underdog for this. I mean, they do not really hold a charge as per many as well. Everybody's anticipating Pakistan and India to go through into the Super Four, so they can face once again in the Super Four before before if they also qualify for the Super Four before meeting in the final. So you reckon? Nepal can pull up an upset here or there because they've been a good team in Associate Nations, but still pulling off an upset against Pakistan or India, it's way too far fetched. You reckon at this point?
It does seem far fetched, and the nature of the competition is such that even if they do, like, and in like the outlandish world we are, I don't think they're going to be able to pull two upsets. That is one, and then the other thing is, even if they do manage, I don't expect them to roll over either India or Pakistan. It's going to be an edge to edge. So when they do that, the net run rate thing comes into play. Probably the other team would crush them anyway, so it looks pretty hard for them. Had they been in the other group, still it could have been like the tiniest. I would have gone from 3 decimal fractions to 2 decimal fractions in terms of probability of them staying alive. But nah, I mean, what an experience it would be for a country like Nepal. Like, what an experience to be amongst the best of Asia, which consists a lot of the cricketing world as such. So, I mean, I of course they'll go out, and of course you go out and compete to win. But being realistic, I don't think that'll be the only thing in their mind. I think they'll be
Yeah,
there to represent their country,
yeah.
their humble backgrounds in terms of cricket, and just representing how well they've arrived in the world stage.
Absolutely. I mean, there is no two ways about it. If you look at the way in which of Nepal have really been coming as a cricketing nation, if you look some of the games, some of the images which have come out from the home games, there's a packed stadium every time they play, regardless of the opposition. That in itself is a big, big up, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
there is a lot of passion for cricket in Nepal, and this is a right footing for them. For some of the stars to come up against some of the big stars of the world, like Babar, like Virat, others as well. Now, we don't know what the result is going to be, and obviously at this point it just looks like Nepal will be rolled through by either of India or Pakistan. That's how it looks like, but you never know in a stage like this. But other Nepal, if I have to pick up one team who could possibly go out there, now the other group is a little more trickier one. There's Afghanistan, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka. Now if you remember last year, Bangladesh did not qualify to the Super 4, the T20 form of game. It was Afghanistan who went to the Super 4, and Afghanistan almost had it there. You reckon this time it could be once again Afghanistan because they did show promises against Pakistan, but they couldn't really get over the line. On the other end, Bangladesh is a damn good one-day team in comparison with the T20 team.
They are. And you know what? The beauty of this group is that I would like exactly dot to dot. मैं तीनों teams को I'd put in a line. Like I wouldn't move an inch, and it's such a wonderful group to have. You know what? Because I can't choose my mind. Ki, would I keep Afghanistan Cooper? Would I keep Bangladesh? Would I keep the Sri Lankan national team? So like it's such a tense group, and
Yeah,
all of their games are going to be fantastic. And you know what? Their trajectories are pretty different, to be honest.
yeah,
Sri Lanka is on a downward trajectory in terms of their ODI status. Zimbabwe, apologies, Bangladesh were seemingly on an upward trend for the past 3-4 years. Now they've sort
yeah,
of stagnated a bit in terms of their ODI, and Afghanistan, as we know, have just been going from level to level. So,
yeah,
but it sort of feels कि वो तीनों एक जगह पर ही मिल रहे हैं, whatever their trajectories are right now.
yeah.
So yeah, no one can be underestimated for sure, man. Not Bangladesh at any point of time. I mean, on Asian pitches, ODI games, you just can't. Like we've seen with not just Asian teams, like even with Australia's with this world and South Africa and stuff. Like they are a big team to deal with, and especially in Asia.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why we'll just look into the Afghanistan team as well because we'll start off with the Afghanistan team before we go. Or if you look at the way in which we can start with the Indian team later, but we can start with Bangladesh. Maybe then Afghanistan will come to Afghanistan team. Let's look at Bangladesh team because they've been one of the better ODI teams. They defeated India at home. Uh, Massive team at home. Of course, playing away from home is hard, but these conditions will really suit them. If you look at their bowling attack as well, they've got a good mix of spinners, a good mix of all-rounders, including their captain
Yeah.
Ashakib, and of course, they've got Mustafiz, they've got Ibadat, Mehdi, and a good experienced team of keepers as well. With Lichin Das and Mushfiqur Rahim, who can open and also bat in the middle order. That looks like a solid team. There's a slight bit of inexperience in comparison with a lot of other Bangladesh teams. But if you look at this team, they cover a lot of almost all bases. And Tamim Iqbal is going to be a massive miss for this
Yeah.
team because he had to pull out due to a lot of reasons. He was appointed the captain, then he retired from cricket, then he came back again. There was a lot of drama there, but now he's not going to be playing Asia Cup for sure. He'll be back for the World Cup most likely. But other than that, there's a well-rounded team. They've got like some Naeem, Mehdi, Najmul. Afif, Shakib, Litton, Mushfiqur,
Yeah,
then again Mehdi, the all-rounder. Ibadat has always done well last year as well. Mustafiz, he's got his trickery will come into play in conditions like Sri Lanka once again. How important it is for Bangladesh to be consistent in this world, in this Asia Cup, because last time they in 2018 when it was the 50 over Asia Cup, they were in the finals and they took India by the scuff of the neck, and it went down to the last few balls for Kedar Jadhav to come and win it for India.
yeah. Very precisely remember that. I think it was a great game. But nah, you're absolutely right. And as we've said about, speaking about Bangladesh, that they need to make that next step now. They need to be in these finals or in these last, four, six, eight of these tournaments regularly to establish themselves, because we have seen a natural progression of cricket now, coming towards the countries like Afghanistan and Bangladesh, and maybe leaving the West Indies and the Sri Lankas of this world behind. So I think to establish themselves there, I think they need pump ups like this. And the good thing about Bangladesh in the past 5, 6, 7 years has been that they have somehow stabilized their core. So, like, I
Yeah,
believe if you need to have a successful cricketing team, be it any format, you could keep changing your teams in other formats, but you need to have a core team. Like, you need to have 4, 5, 6 players just nailed in
yeah,
everywhere you go, every squad you have. So they've done that. They had some instability over Shakib and Mushfiqur Rahim for the past 2, 3 years, but that has gone down now. Tamim Iqbal obviously doesn't help, but he was named captain, so he's an experienced captain as well. Obviously, he misses out. Then the Taskin Ahmeds and the Mehdi Hassan. Mehdi Hassan has been a revelation
yeah,
for them, because he has just come out. And I remember when he made his debut, it was like, yeah, he's yet another, like, one of those Bangladeshi players, but he has established himself. Also, I remember Litton Das. I think we
yeah.
played a one-off series against Bangladesh. It was like 4, 5 years ago, or 3, 4 years ago. It was a test match, and Litton Das made his debut, and he was pretty impressive there. Bangladesh got bowled out for like cheap, and he made 50% of their runs in both the innings. So I remember him from there, and he has again established himself there. So I think Bangladesh's one thing has been right, that unki ek jo core hai, that has just stabilized itself, and the other teams and the remaining players have been revolving around that, which is nice.
Absolutely. I mean, that really helps, especially when you're in that kind of a phase where you're stepping up. And as a team, transition is going to be one thing which this team has to deal with. Obviously, a lot of their players will call it a day very soon, most likely, with
Yeah,
whatever has been happening in the board and whatever we've seen in the recent past. Last year as well, most of these teams were not the content. It was always India, Pakistan who was taking the limelight, even in the last year's Asia Cup. But one team who really surprised and who are the defending champions of the Asia Cup are the team who will be playing at home in Sri Lanka. Last
yeah,
year as well, they faced a lot of adversity, especially when it comes to injuries, but they showed what they can do. This time, once again, there's a lot of injury scare there. Most likely, someone like Asaranga will not be available. They face it with Chamira, who was ruled out. They had to
yeah.
multiple replacements in this team. What do you reckon about this team? Because they've got something about heart, about especially playing in their home conditions. They tend to surprise big teams in this kind of tournaments, especially, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's that, that bounce back factor that about them, because we know that the country as a whole has been going through a torrid time, and cricket has obviously been a part of it as well, and it has taken a hit as well. But there is that feeling of resurgence. There is that feeling of underdogs, and when you gain momentum as the underdogs, it really can take a lot of big teams by surprise. Because by no means Sri Lanka just become a small team. They can't. They just can't. In cricket, it doesn't happen. It takes decades from a team to transition from one to the other. Obviously, they're on a declining slope, but you just can't rule them out. Like India versus Sri Lanka, I won't bet all of my money. I might bet on India, but I wouldn't go all in on India to beat Sri Lanka. So like that's the sort of the weighing scale. Obviously, it's like if I had to rate India, Sri Lanka, India ke palte mein hoga, but that doesn't mean
Yeah.
it's a guarantee. Nothing's a guarantee, first of all, in sports. But Sri Lanka is still a big team. They've got big players. But yeah, some injury upsets. I think Hasaranga being such a big one, like he would have been everywhere and everything for Sri Lanka.
I mean, he was
So
everyone and everywhere in the LPL. Most
exactly that,
important
that
defender, wicket taker, catches,
yeah, yeah,
sixes,
yeah,
man of
yeah,
the
yeah,
tournament, and captain as well. So that was Hasaranga in the LPL.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
that's a massive
Exactly.
message there.
It's a really big hit. Is he out for the World Cup as well?
No, he's out for the Asia Cup as of now. That's what
All
it
right,
says.
that's fair then, because yeah, you really would want a player like him playing in India in the World Cup, because he's a spotlight player, isn't he?
Yeah, he is, and he's really improved as well. I mean, this IPL was such a tough time for someone like Hasaranga. Did not get a lot of opportunities, and playing
Yeah,
in Chennai probably doesn't help the cause as well. So it was really bad for Hasaranga. But in conditions where there is a lot to offer, I think he is as good as anybody, and I think he is a tough bowler to hit. And as well, when it comes to his batting efforts, I think RCB really underutilized him. When he
yeah,
goes to play for Sri Lanka or these other leagues, you really see the batting side of Hasaranga come to the fore, where he is used as a batter a lot more. There's a lot more confidence, which he also shows as a batter. And LPL really
yeah.
showed the quality of cricket in LPL wasn't bad. Now we
Mhm.
can sit here and say the quality of cricket in LPL is pretty bad. That's the reason why Hasaranga, who was possibly a discard for RCB this season, performed extremely well. But on the other side of things, the quality was really good. There were some really good players. There were some really tight matches that he was a notch above. This was one of the seasons where Asarga came to his own as well. And he's an X
Yeah,
factor player, no matter where he plays. Now we talk about Ravindra Jadeja for India. I think we can put him in the same bracket for Sri Lanka at least for him being the X factor player, good fielder, a good baller, good batter, a decent batter, and can hit a long ball whenever need be. So that is Hasraga for you. But how important is when we talk about someone like Dasun Shanak on this day? Because last year he led beautifully, and now he will really have to rely on the other players to step up. Now we talk about Patum Nisanka. It's time for him to really step up as well. Now Karuna Ratne has been there thereabouts always. He's got the experience of playing in Test cricket. But alongside someone like Dasun Chanaka, he want the other seniors to step up big time in order for Sri Lanka to really thrive forward into the latter stage of Asia Cup as did.
no, absolutely. And one player I have my eye on because I just have an inherent sort of I'd say attraction towards this player in cricketing terms, and that's Kusal Pereira. I mean, don't let the middle name fool you there. That's Kusal
Yeah.
Pereira, the Jayasuriya dope as they call him,
Yeah,
Dupe,
yeah,
not the dope, Dupe. So
yeah.
I mean, he has that thing about him. He has that live wire capability, but then somehow he just fails to perform at a consistent level, game to
Yeah.
game, tournament to tournament. But he is one like finally, if God could give me some good pop, because I really like the player. He might average 29, 30 for all cricket cares, but he is one. If he gets on going, then he's a pretty, and obviously we know the capabilities of not very young now, but he was known as one of the brightest prospects of Sri Lanka, Kusal Mendes. I mean,
Yeah.
he's a great one to deal as well with. So I think these two, and of course, as you said, Dasun Sanaka, with him being the captain now. To be honest, I was pretty surprised when he was handed the captaincy. I because there's a lot of I stopped keeping count after Angelo Matthews, and then it was Chandimal, then Matthews, and Chandimal again, and then it was Karuna Ratne, if I'm not wrong, for a brief period, and then Dasun Shanaka was just given there. So yeah, but fair enough. And another player, all right, this is the IPL influence kicking in now. Thikasana. I mean, yeah.
Mahesh
He,
Theekshana and this
yeah, yeah,
Mahesh Patirana as well.
exactly.
These two
So
Chennai
as I
boys are there in the team.
exactly. So as I was gonna say that what IPL has shown us, if they are anything to believe from there, I think they're gonna be two big assets for. Imagine, man, like Theeksana, Patirana, Hasaranga. I mean, that'll be a good sort of I'd say a
I think
bowling, a
even
kitty.
Matthews will be back in contention for the World Cup as well because he had
He
a
would
very good
be.
LPL. He was back bowling well. He was batting well, finishing games consistently. I think once Matthews also comes back into the squad with, I think then this team becomes even more stronger with Desanka, with
They
Mendes,
seem to have a
Shanaka.
better balance than India in terms of getting those all rounders who can bowl, who
They
can
do,
bat and stuff.
they
Yeah,
do.
so they're good ones.
That is something which India should be wary of. They have a very good balance, and that's why we'll go to another team. Supposedly the favorites to win the Asia Cup, the world number one ODI team at this point, it's
Yeah.
Pakistan. It is a strong Pakistan team. Now we don't count out Pakistan like other times. This is possibly one of the strongest Pakistan team
Yeah.
which will be out there in the park. They've got three quicks who is absolutely ruling the world at this point with Harris Rauf, Naseem Shah, and Shaheen Afridi. And they've got the spin area is one department where they will really want to come up. And when it comes to batting, obviously they've got like Imamul Haq, who has been playing extremely well. I mean, strike rate is a question for a lot of them, but Imamul Haq has been doing a decent job with Babar at three and Rizwan at four. Aga Salman, who's been really coming up. They've also added Saud Shakil into the reserves as
Yeah.
well, who's really made an impact in Test career. And in the reserves, they obviously have someone like Mohammad Harris. We've seen glimpses of him in the T20 World Cup and in the PSL as well. Abdullah Shafiq's another player who's really done well in test, but hasn't not been able to convert it into the white ball format. But if you look at the all-rounders, they have Usama Amir and Mohammad Nawaz, who's been really doing well. A good solid team, a long batting order as well. Now with Naseem Shah also contributing with the bat,
Ugh,
they've got batting till 10 necessarily, and also they've got a very strong pace unit likes of Naseem, Shaheen, and Harris Rao, who all can clock at 150 plus, and a spinner Shadab and a left arm spinner Nawaz. Five solid bowlers with Iftikhar also who can chip in with the ball a little bit. A very solid team out there in the park.
again and again, they seem to be striking the balance as well. This just tells us how all rounders are so very important. And you don't need to even be that all rounder. You can just be an Asim Shah. That just provides that stability to the team, that you have your one core area where you're probably the master, and then you can do a bit of both. So I mean, you know what? After a long time, like even though they beat us in the Champions Trophy and stuff, nah, not really. But now, like with their bowling lineup, I mean, Haris Rauf, what a find he's been. Like, there's this guy, I forgot his name. Haris, no, the guy who used to do the boom celebration after
Hassan
taking the
Ali.
wicket. Hassan Ali, is he in the squad? He isn't, right?
No, he's not there in the squad.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
moved
So
on.
after, yeah, that's what I believe, because he was meant to be, the next sort of wicket taker for them. Obviously, he was a bit different from the traditional Pakistani bowlers, and they had this Mohammad Amir, Shaheen Shah was coming in, and they had this one guy who used to bowl not so quick, but with slow balls and stuff, and he used to take the. But once he went out, I was like, nah, but what a find Aristoff has been. I mean, he just clocks 145 like it's nothing, like on a consistent basis, and then he keeps hitting that 150 mark over and over again. He's one to deal with. It'll be interesting how he adapts. I'm talking about the World Cup here, onto the Indian pitches, because the faster Indian tracks which are there generally favor the batsman, and the ones which favor the bowler are generally a bit slower, on the slower side. This is going to be interesting as far as the World Cup is concerned. But right now, they just feel like a settled unit. They feel like
Yeah,
they've gotten all bases covered with Fakhar Zaman also, getting into his form. He was out of the team for like 1.5 years after the ODI team. He was in the T20
yeah.
squad nonetheless. But now he's come back into the fray. Imamul Haq has been a stable unit. And then we all know the antics of Babar Azam in the middle of the order there. And he's obviously one to look with. But yeah, it's going to be interesting how we shape up against them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's where this team becomes even more potent with that stability which they have in the middle order, which is pretty decent. But still, they've not been tested, you can say, against a quality team. Now, the Asia Cup, even as we speak about Pakistan being so good, there are certain chinks in the armor where which could be tested if a good team comes up against it. Now, you saw that against Afghanistan, where there is a lot of tentativeness in that team. If you look at the way how they played, and that is something a lot of teams will take a note of, isn't it? Because if you look up, there is Barber, but the moment Barber falls,
Yeah.
all of a sudden you feel like there's plenty of pressure all around. I mean, they are looking here and there. They're searching for answers. That Rizwan is one player who they'd like to really step up as well. It again comes down to I know Imam is giving a lot of runs on top of the order, but you can still say maybe not at the strike rate you ideally want. They're batting at 80,
Yeah.
75, 68 at times. These are average strike rate of Pakistani top four batters. Maybe except for Fakhar Zaman, a lot of the other batters, Fakhar Zaman and Iftikhar in that top six, a lot of
Yeah.
the batters are pretty much one dimensional if you look at the way in which they've been batting
Yeah. Yeah.
in
Yeah.
comparison to how they should be batting in the modern format. Now, if that was happening with India, we'd be sitting here and criticizing them. They'd be like, not good enough to go out there and play white ball cricket because we are looking at a modern approach. But in stark contrast to what Pakistan is doing, Pakistan is pretty happy with scoring those 300s, 280s, and looking to defend. And they have the bowling attack to defend so. But on flatter surfaces, you reckon they can be challenged even more.
Yeah, and but that's where I believe the catch is, because whatever opposition you face, if you're world number one, you have been doing something right consistently over a period of time, and that's where I believe. I think, as we've discussed it multiple times, when we were discussing baseball or whatever, like whatever uh, approach you take, if you're confident in that, like if they keep hitting that 280, 300 zone consistently, I think they are a force to reckon with. Because many a times, you know what, I wish I could have I could soak up half the abilities of Pakistan, which is that they're not influenced by the IPL, which I've been absolutely a big criticizer of, and I've been frustrated as a fan. We just don't want to survive 50 overs as an Indian fan, like how I'm seeing. Like we probably want to play two T20s rather than 50 overs. And I think that is something they have absolutely secluded themselves from. And I think their main motive is to take control, and that is where they've added a couple of, and that's where I believe Fakhar Zaman was reintroduced in the squad as well. That's my presumption, with that frame of mind, that he's someone who while can be stable, but he can be pretty destructive as well. And then we know Babar. I still put Babar. He's criticized and stuff, but seeing his shots, seeing the variety of shots he can play, I still believe that Babar is a player who can switch gears pretty easily. So I think with
Yeah,
the addition in the skill set there with Fakhar Zaman, with Iftikhar, as you said, I think they are now starting to sort of revolutionize a bit of that
yeah,
approach. But I think that still one of their main approaches is because they are believing in their bowling. They are believing in the fact that their batsmen would get to that safe, goodish zone of 280, 300. And again, if they keep doing it consistently, I think it's
yeah,
good
they
times.
can. They definitely can, and that's why this Asia Cup is going to be a really good challenge for them. Finally, the team which we all
Underdogs.
love over here, it's the Indian team. It is the Indian team. They've had a long practice session in Allur and near Bangalore. They've had training camp, so that's
Yeah.
the report what we get from there. And they've got all the players back fit. As KL Rahul will be missing out on the first two matches, as addressed by Rahul Dravid today.
Yeah.
That's where the question marks again stand. Now, if you look at all the teams, there's no lot of question marks. But one team who's been going into this tournament with question marks and injury scare is this team, which is the Indian team. We already had a brief
Yeah.
discussion or a very detailed discussion on them.
Yeah, we
Your
did.
thoughts now as the Asia Cup is almost here? There's still no clarity as to what the batting order is going to be. Now, that is not a good sign to have, at least for the first two matches.
Yeah. I think we should just give it up at this point now. Let us just sit tight. Let us wait for that game against Pakistan. Let's see what pulls up. Let's see how we perform, and then how we react to that performance
Yeah,
is all I'm concerned about. The one thing which I'm chasing more than the Asia Cup trophy this time is stability in the squad. Like, as a fan, I just want some stability to be shown, some coherence, some transparency in terms of what the thought process, what the selection process behind the actual selection is.
yeah,
Not trying to shift our principles according to the conditions, according to the opposition. Sticking to our basics, sticking to at least a group of 8, 9, 10. At least I'd say 8. Maybe you could shuffle a couple
yeah,
every 2 3 games, but having that 8 9 locked in every time, that's pretty important. Getting your balance right. You go and decide. Then you go and decide, do you want two pacers,
yeah,
two full pacers, and then with Shardul Thakur being your third? Like,
yeah,
I think this is going to be a big debate. Or do you want three pacers, one spinner with Shardul Thakur, or maybe six bowlers, two
yeah.
all-rounders, Shardul Thakur, and three ball? So there's all sorts of permutations and combinations going around. You need to
Absolutely.
stick to one and then make changes to that, rather than the personnel deciding your actual output in 11. So I think, yeah,
True.
that's where I stand.
Interesting. And that's why I think we will be back on Friday evening to preview the India versus Pakistan game, which will be just
Absolutely.
24 hours away by that time. And it's going to be good to be back on September 1st. And we'll talk in detail regarding that because at this point, I still believe with the Indian team, we are still in nasal stages because Indian team believes 3 days is a lot of time. Now, why should we not change that? And they believe 3 days is a lot of time to really see how things
Yeah.
go. For a lot of other teams, for Indian team, 40 days is like 4 years. So they believe World Cup is still far away. A lot of time for experimentation. So why are we bothering into it? Let them,
Yeah.
let them. As long as they believe it, we totally
Yeah.
believe in them.
Yeah.
That's about it from us, guys. Thank you for joining today. We'll be back tomorrow, talking about the other teams as well in detail to analyze the Bangladesh Sri Lanka game and possibly understand where things stand. Pakistan take on Nepal tomorrow. We do not know when tomorrow. By the time we come, whether do we have a result or not. So a lot of things to discuss tomorrow. Thank you for joining once again. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel and also do not forget to check out our Instagram page and check out our courses in Mad About Sports if you're an aspiring analyst. This could be a freaking store into a long, successful analytical career of yours in sporting world. So check it out with Mad About Sports. Have a good time, all of you. See you all very soon. Bye bye.